Well, hello there. I'm the Harvest and welcome to the first video of the channel. In this video, I'll be showing you how to make an earthen lamp or a Diya in Hindi in Blender 2.8. The system should be same for 2.9 also. To start, select to the file, go to the file and make a new project. Select all the materials and delete them. Then add a new vSphere. And then go to edit mode and delete most of the part of the sphere so that the remaining shape looks like an earthen lamp. Or you can just do what I am doing. Press on delete vertices and here we are remaining with a shape like this, a little bit less than a semicircle. Now press O to switch on the proportional editing mode, and first you need to get that edge selected and press O to enable the proportional editing mode, and then drag it out in the X direction to make it more look like the shape. You may change some settings and there you go. You may increase the size a bit and pull it out outwards, and you may tweak it as much as you like because I'm no one to judge. Well, this looks somewhat like it. Now I will deselect all the bottom ones and go to the side view. Deselect the bottom ones as well, and this one I want to pull it a little bit outwards because means it is tapered a little bit on the edges too, so that only that part is sticking outwards. Now this shape looks pretty nice to me, so I will go on with this. You may also want to flatten out the bottom part so that it may look better later on. Now just shade smooth and make sure to select auto smooth under the normals in the properties and add a subsurf modifier. Okay, this looks good, but we need to add some thickness, so add a solidify modifier first. Set the thickness to 0.02 and that looks very much like it. Now move the solidify modifier upwards and then apply the modifier. Now this looks somewhat like that, so you may need to fix it in the edit mode. And for the bottom part, now select the bottommost edge and then extrude it outwards a bit. I will shrink it down a bit before that so that I can get rid of those streaks. Those look really weird. You may skip this part because I'm just doing some final adjustments. And then I will extrude it because in the earthen lamps look a bit better if it have that bottom part. Now I will just click on Shift E and tighten the edge so that the subsurf modifier doesn't smooth that edge down, and it looks kinda better. I will tighten out the bend too using a loop cut. That looks pretty good. Now coming to the top part, the Diya doesn't seem to be that much thick as we wanted, so I'm gonna add an edge loop there, and so it is as much thick as we want. Looks better now. But the front part, it should be a bit the front part should be extruding out a bit more, so I'm gonna adjust that by edge loops. And yeah, that looks better. Never mind the notification sound. Now also you may see some streaks in the bottom, so to get rid of those I'm gonna insert the bottommost face so that the streaks get smaller and eventually you won't notice it. You may skip out this part, or if you like to follow me on, just stick to it. Okay, that looks a bit better. Now I'm gonna start making the oil for the earthen lamp. So to do that, I'm gonna select the faces from the inside of the lamp which are gonna be covered by oil. So selecting them in the object mode seemed to be a bit difficult, so I just went to the wireframe and selected all the edges. Yeah, I was unable to decide at this point, so I just went to wireframe mode and selected all the faces below that, and then back in solid view, I just deselected all the outside ones, so I was just left with the inside faces. And yeah, that's very much it. So now press P and separate by selection. So I've got the mesh outside, so this mesh is gonna be our oil. So I'm gonna select this mesh and go into edit mode, go into edge select mode, select the outer line of the edges and make it a face, because oil is gonna be covered. I'm gonna tighten this edge so that oil it fills to the brim. I'm gonna rename it oil and rename the other mesh as the Diya. Naming meshes is always a good practice, can't deny that. Now as the oil in the lamp is done, now I'm gonna make the wick. So to start with the wick, I'm gonna add a Bezier curve, and then I'm gonna adjust it so that it looks more like a wick. I'm gonna go into edit mode and fix it so that it just stays in the path that a wick should be there. in this lamp. Some final touches, and yeah, seems good. Now I'm gonna add a circle, a curved circle, Bezier circle, because you know what, the wick needs some thickness. So in the bevel, I'm gonna select the object as Bezier circle and then adjust the circle size so that it should be a thread, a thin piece of cotton like that, not a huge pipe. I also turn on the fill caps and make sure the circle is pretty small. And then I'm gonna adjust it so that it is not clipping through the body of the lamp. And that looks pretty much it. That looks good enough. I'm gonna rename it as Wick. Now I'm gonna convert it to a mesh so that it becomes a mesh, and I can edit it in the edit mode and can add some materials to my choice. Now it's time for the flame. For the flame, I'm gonna use the image. So I will just add a plane and rename it as flame, and I'm gonna adjust it so that when I place the image, it is gonna stay in the place where I want it to be. Also, I'll be linking the page, and I will be keeping a link to this in the description for the image of the flame, so that you guys can take it. I just downloaded a random picture from the Google Images and just turned the background to alpha, turned the background to 0 alpha in GIMP. I also tried out fire simulation earlier, but fire simulation wasn't able to give me such nice flame that I'm looking for. Now it's always a good practice that the object I'm making should be in the right scale in the real life. It should be in scale with the real life object. So I'm gonna first start by parenting all the object to the main body of the Diya. And this is the point I realized that the Diya looks awful. I even tried to here you can see me that I'm desperately just trying to fix the Diya because it looks awful kinda, but it won't matter in the final scene. You guys should, if you guys want to adjust it, you guys should adjust it before you add the oil, because I even managed to adjust it properly, but I later remembered that the oil layer is having basically the same geometry as this big one, so really no use if whatever I do. I have to fix the oil too, and I was too lazy to do it. And in the final scene too, I won't be capturing the whole Diya, but if you are making this for some props for your scene as some objects where the whole Diya will be visible, then I would recommend you to do this before you add the oil, so that now this is just looking bad, and I will just ignore it. I'll just ignore it. Can't do anything. Sorry. You guys should repair it before you add the oil, before the step you add the oil, and while making the Diya itself. So with all that done, I'm gonna go towards texturing. So I'll go to the shading tab and just fix the window. I don't like this layout. So I'll just add some very a baked clay-like material to the earthen lamp itself. So for that prerequisite, turn the roughness up to 1, and the base color a bit kind of a terracotta like color. Zooming out helps with the selection of the color actually. Yeah, that seems to be good. Yeah, that seems to be good to me. A little bit lighter, and yeah, that should. Now for the oil, I need to add two textures. One this principal BSDF, and the color should be some yellowish color. I'm zooming it so that each movement of the cursor can grab less values so that I can get a higher precision of whatever I select. Now the oil, it's basically mustard oil, and it is having a light yellowish color. So I'll just select a yellowish color from the HSV panel. HSV kind of gives me a better result than just dragging around the mouse in the color wheel. You guys can do whatever you want. I will turn up from transmission to map 1, and in this case many guys can just tell me that you just set the IOR to the default value of the oil, but I will be saying no, because later on during the rendering of the scene it hinders it kind of disrupts the view. That's why I just set it to whole transparency. All I need is the volume. Now I will also add a volume VSDF with the color same as that one, just a bit darker, so that I can get that volume effect, so that the light is just, it has some density like that. I just don't know at this point what I was doing. Just made sure just whatever looked good. Now time for the wick. Now the reason why I converted this thing to the mesh is that I will be having two materials inside this mesh. So when I go to edit mode, I'll be selecting the front part of the wick after adding a edge loop, and make it color black, because the front part of the wick is burnt and it will be black. It won't be the same color all throughout the place. And if it was still a Bezier curve, I won't be able to do this. You see, I assigned the black texture, so the front part, and just select the rest of it and assign the white texture. And here you go. Now time for the main thing here, the flame. For the flame, I will use an image texture. And I already have an image here. I will, as I said before, I will give a link in the description for the flame that I made. Or if you have one, make sure there is no background in this one. And to set up it like that, I will drag the alpha to the alpha value of the principal BSDF, and it will give a better value. Now obviously you can't see it in the AV because I don't know some weird settings you have to do. You can obviously see it in the cycles render. Also drag the color to the emission, and yeah, but you can obviously see that the emission is not enough. The emission strength is not enough, and in the principal BSDF you cannot actually control the emission. So first things first, I will just go to the UV editing section and make sure that the flame I want is of the same size. The size is good, because right now in the render scene it looks like a very thin and a small flame, but I want it to be a nice big one, kind of a size in the correct size of the plane I have. And I think that much big will be enough. You can also play around with the UV editing as much as you want. And now I'll be adding and yeah, at this point I was confused with the S and A. So by pressing the S key, I will just increase the size of the plane, and that will be acting as a ground for us, so that an earthen lamp in the scene cannot be just floating in the air. It needs something to sit on. So I will just select a real brownish kind of color, bit of flory, and I will turn down the strength of the world to black. And now you can see that the strength of the flame is not really enough, so I will just duplicate it a couple of times. I prefer to do it in the shading mode. I have already duplicated it a couple of times, I guess, and yeah. And you see, each time I duplicate it, the strength of the light increases a bit. So yeah, that's what I did. Basically, you can just keep 2 or 3 flames in the same place, or if your camera is moving, you can just make it follow your flame, or yeah, whatever you want. Now I will just set up the camera here for the scene, and it's a long process, so yeah, basically you guys know how to do it. For my case, I just like to fix the camera to the present scene, and then lock the camera to the view and adjust it to whatever view I want. And yeah, by selecting that render region option on the right, you can just save the time it takes to render the scene in your viewport. Now for in this case, the brightness was too much, so I just deleted the 1 or 2 flames, and it worked for me. I will just set the flame, add a depth of field, and set the object to the flame, because it gives a nice feeling to the nice effect to the scene. Actually, I'll just change the values to 1080 by 1080, so that it will be a nice 1:1 picture for for giving to Instagram or Facebook or whatever the site you want. Now time for the camera settings. And yeah, this looked pretty nice for me. This looked pretty good, and I just save the file, and now time to render the image. So I'll just go and render the image, and yeah, I'll be back when it is done. But oh, I just forgot one thing. Before you go and render the image, you need to go to the render passes and enable the emission. Over there. Need to go to render passes and denoising data, and also emission. So We'll be doing some compositing later on after the rendering is done. So for the compositing we need that emission data. So yeah, we'll see you after the rendering is done. So now the rendering is done, and let's just go and composite it, because at this point of time that was not really looking good. So I will just go to the composited node, compositing tab, use nodes, and first I will input a viewer node so that we can see whatever is going on with our image real time. So yeah, nice big picture of the flame. I can adjust there, and there it is. Nice. Now I will add a glare node. And also a mix node. Take the emission data into the image, into the glare node, and take the output into the mix node, and we'll just make it add. I was just trying on multiply, and I guess it was a very bad idea, so I just went with that. And then choose fog glow and reduce the threshold to 0.4 or whatever you want until it works for you. We have got that faint glow out there. So the threshold, the more you reduce it, the more the glow comes out there. So here we have our final image of the Diya, and you can just go and save it. So like the video if you liked it, and subscribe, because I will be posting some random stuff about CGI and some more of this tutorial. And let me know down in the comments how did you like it, which parts did I mess up, because it is my first video. And so I will see you later. Goodbye.